Nice, Michael. Nice. Excellent. We are the Elite Thinking Club. Welcome everyone everywhere back to the next episode. This episode, we are going to be talking about the struggle with corporate life. So, welcome everyone everywhere. I'm Jules, Julien, joined tonight by my co-hosts Michael and Liz. You guys good?
Hey, yeah, all
Always good.
good, all good.
Always good. Welcome everyone everywhere watching from all platforms, whether that's on the Twitch, whether that's on the TikTok, whether that's on the YouTube right now. We really appreciate you guys. Thank you so much for being here. And if you haven't done so already, you know what to do. You know how to do it. Hit the like, hit the subscribe button, and yeah, hit the notification bell because every time we go live, you'll know about it, and we'll go from there. So we at the Elite Thinking Club, we are some esoteric thinkers. We think outside the box. We attack things from all angles. We want to know more and more and more. So the reality is that you can't change anything unless you're willing to understand it, and you can't understand it unless you're willing to explore it. Good debates don't get ugly. We talk about things that may make people feel vulnerable, and beliefs held sacred may be challenged because of your life experiences, but we're not trying to make people wrong or to incite riot, but just simply explore. So welcome everyone everywhere to the Elite Thinking Club. um let's have a quick recap. Last few episodes, we talked about books that will change your life, which actually I wanted to show. Talk about manifestation. This came into my possession, Liz. The Celestine
Yay!
Prophecy by a friend gave it to me and said, when you get a chance, you can read it. And I was like, amazing, because funny, that's on my radar. So yeah, it's all good. Shout out to some of the viewers right now. We got uh Shanuvas, we got White a Rabbit, Girl in the Corner. What's going on, guys? I see you. Namaste. Welcome everyone everywhere. And also we talked about, is on a previous episode, is society killing masculinity in strong men now? If you want to go and watch those episodes, go ahead. We got the links in the description. Check them out and let us know what you think. Hit the comments. And at any time during this episode that you feel like you want to say something, hit the comments. We're going to see it. We're watching. We're monitoring. So awesome.
Just
Liz.
because you mentioned that bit, did you see some girl come out on social media saying that she wants to stick a strap on and rape Andrew Tate?
Whoa. I have seen that clip on TikTok. This girl did get a little bit of a rant going on about that. And I also saw someone do a stitch where they added their view on it straight after. And yeah, they just highlighted how ridiculously uh crucified he would be if he had
If
said
he
that
said the same.
about a
Yeah.
woman. Like, and it's true, the double standards in society is real. We know
Yeah.
about this, and you can't hide the fact that we've created a society. When I say we, we all contribute to it, so we have to take a bit of responsibility for it. That yes, we have created a society now where, well, we did an episode on this. Political correctness has gone too far. We're accepting things because it's the norm to accept, when in reality
Yeah.
it's really should be addressed. It should be highlighted that no, we should not accept this or stand for this double standard. But yeah, it is what it is. If a man came out and said that he would love to bend her over and rape her, he'd be absolutely destroyed. People wouldn't have it.
Yeah.
However, this young lady feels like she has the entitlement, nay, she has the privilege to say that and not be punished for it or judged for
So
it,
has
or
she not been banned? She's just been.
Of course she hasn't.
See, that's
hey,
where
Laura, I
it's
see you.
wrong. That's where it's wrong because it is double standards and it's not equal.
I don't even like the term wrong, like right or wrong. I think it's appropriate. What's really appropriate, and unfortunately, society is now pushed into a way where it's kind of inappropriate. It's just double standards. It's it's quite heartbreaking, to be fair. But hey, we're gonna go in on that in a bit. But tonight's episode is about the struggle with corporate life. A lot of people are finding themselves living this life where the corporate side of things keeps them restricted from what they're allowed to say, and they feel almost like a slave to the system. It's like they don't have a choice. They are, if you will, forced, you know. And I guess it's it's just a matter of, again, what's appropriate and what's not. You know what I mean? Liz, Michael, I want to know what you guys think about that. Just the title in general. Can you relate to it, or is it completely
I think
like,
we all can, because I think we're all kind of somewhere along the line almost entrapped in the corporate system some way or another, whether it's through work, whether it's through our finances, whether it's through everyday life. Like, there's things we can't really, there's corporates at the top that kind of, it's become a very corporate world. So where we go to eat, what we do, it's all linked. So yes, I think we are all affected by it. But specifically with regards to being able to say things at work and corporate, yes, I do agree.
yeah? I mean, Michael, what's your take on it? Do you find yourself having to um not obey, but have to, oh,
Yeah,
I don't even
watch
know
what
what
you
the correct
say.
word is.
But having that in mind, from now on, I'm going to refer to a friend of mine.
Yeah, a friend of mine.
Yeah, so a friend of mine, as the job he works at, yeah, there's been a lot of pinching to save money. So everybody's has to do like 6 job roles just to, like, so they were getting paid before their normal wage to do something.
Yeah.
Now, because they're trying to save money, those people now have got to do 5 people's jobs.
Yeah,
And that
I
was my
mean,
friend, by the way, not me.
as we enter this recession, one of the biggest problems is jobs, because companies find that if they're struggling to keep the lights on and um, you know keep the business running, normally if it's a case of, okay, we need to save 40 grand here or 50 grand there, I mean, that's someone's salary. Unfortunately, what they do is they say goodbye to some people, but then the workload gets passed on to whoever's staying. So I suppose it's really hard. It's difficult, because what do you do if you're running a business and it's a good business? It clearly provides for the system. You want to keep it running, because if it was to all fall apart, a lot of people would suffer. For example, the corn industry, it's such a random one, but it's a good one. The corn industry, so much corn is involved in our day-to-day life, from food on the shelves just to simply feeding the livestock that provide more food. If one was to fall down, so would a lot of others. It would have a massive domino effect. So I understand that the importance of um, the system that we've created or have been born into or are all part of. It's just really, really difficult when you know that when you're part of it, in order to stay part of it, you do have to abide by some of the unwritten rules or the unwritten laws. Um, so yeah, we definitely want to know what you guys think on this. It's the struggle of corporate life. And shout outs to Lola, I see you, and Gabs, and Nadine, I see you, and Laura, we see you. So one of the comments, we are all in the system somehow. I think it boils down to money.
Yeah,
So
there's always money.
on that, yeah, on that comment, it is
That's what I was trying to say.
money is a very good way for us to ensure that it flows. So let's say, for example, it will always exchange hands for goods and services. So I'm very, very fortunate, if not privileged, to be in a position where money has granted me access to this internet, to this camera, to this microphone that I speak to you on. It's a case of someone somewhere created these things. Now I can't just go up and hug them and be like, cheers for that, here's a hug, because unfortunately they don't live on hugs. They live on the same thing I live on, which is food, water, air, shelter. And on a grander scheme of things, they would have to then use that money to pay someone else to provide them with the food and the water. And it's just one big cycle, it's one big system. So, although a lot of people are frustrated and upset and angry at the system, it serves such an important part of our standard of living. Now, there are those who don't have such a good standard of living, and we all one at one point probably have thought, oh, thank God I'm not them. I wouldn't know how I'd cope. And it's so true, because the luxury of just a shower, clean running water, like, it is such a important part of your day-to-day life that sometimes we take for granted. But on the flip side of the coin, it is such a struggle because of the well, you wouldn't want to live in hardship. So how do you go about making more money? If anything, you just need to contribute to the system. So it's a case of more people contributing to a system that takes us further and further away from our nature. And that's one of the biggest struggles that I find, is that my nature is butting heads with the corporate system. It really does. And that's the struggle. Anyone who want to add to that? Go ahead, add to that.
Yeah, I mean, this is my job now, but so my old job role was a branch manager. But to save money, they got rid of all the branch managers. So then that then made my job more involved, because now I've got to do someone else's job and my job at the same time for the same pay.
Exactly. That was my point earlier. And as much as you can see from a perspective of, well, we had to do that in order to maintain the business, it's really heartbreaking that they don't consider, well, actually, what you've done is just killed someone else's livelihood. So the expendable, is it, people at, like, the workforce, it's a very, very vulnerable place to be, because at any minute they could just be like, yeah, we have to let you go, and therefore it sucks.
Yeah, I mean, on our level, it weren't like, you wouldn't have thought they would have been expendable, because it's all managers that have been got rid of.
Yeah.
So out of all the people you would have thought would be expendable, you wouldn't think managers.
Nah. I mean, girl in the corner just commented, we can't live without it, but we need to decide if we're ready to let go.
It's really hard, isn't it? Because I think we're all quite vulnerable to the corporate system. And even if we think we're not, we are. Because there's elements of it that will be part of our everyday life. We can't escape it. But then equally, I always feel like I'm cheating myself, because I feel like I don't want to be part of the system and I want to completely free myself from it. But it's really hard, because I work and I pay for things, and it's like, it's really hard to detach yourself from the corporate system, and you almost feel like, is there a way out? I would love to, like, build a cabin in the woods and just live off grid and not have to deal with any corporate systems, whatever. But the reality is that's going to probably take me a long time to get to that point.
And
I'll probably be about 60 by the time I achieve it, or maybe 80. Yeah, and it is hard, because, like the last comment the lady just said, it's like, will we ever be able to let it go? I hope we do. I hope we all manage to kind of, I don't know, make our own corporate system.
I mean, even with the birth of technology, and this is like after the Industrial Revolution, the reason that we have these things is through necessity. Like, necessity creates innovation.
Yeah.
Had it not been for the hardships of the past, we wouldn't have come together and create this system. So it's got many, many reasons for it. I just suppose that it's gotten to the point where you dedicate so much of your time to it, you contribute so much time to it, that it can get frustrating when you feel like you're not being paid fair. But then you have to ask yourself, like, what are you contributing to? What part or what role do you play? And as important as some people may think their role is, how many people can do it? That's the thing. Because if
Mm.
it's a very specific role, if you are the only person in the world that can do that role, you will be paid for your value. And a lot of people get really upset at the fact that there are billionaires out there thinking they live this mass luxury lifestyle, and most likely they do, but they are the only one who is able to do what they do in essence. And that, I suppose, makes people have conflict with their inner self to accept that, okay, maybe I'm not as high value as I'd like to think I am. Maybe I am expendable. Maybe I am paid in relativeness to my value, my contribution to society. Now, it isn't that what you're doing isn't valuable. I'm sure it is. But your grand scheme contribution, if I created a system where I could ensure that everybody had food on their table, I would be of high value and I'd most likely be paid in relativeness to it. But because I don't do that and I only serve, I don't know, a very small pocket of people in the grand scheme of things, I can only accept payment from those small pockets of people, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like, that's
Yeah. I
pretty
mean,
relative.
most of us, as sad as it sounds, are expendable. Although I do a pretty decent job, if I got sacked or quit tomorrow, they'd easily find someone to replace me.
I see you, Megan, in the comment. Work smarter, not harder. I've heard that a lot as well. But I suppose, but when you're good at something and you genuinely love something, I don't think it's a case of working harder or smarter. You're genuinely working for love, and that as well actually does conflict with it, because what you love doing might not be of high value. You might be expendable, but you love it, and love is a very, very powerful driving force in regards to anything. Um, I suppose it's when the pain outweighs the pleasure that people start getting, they feel the struggle more, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
I
And I think if
found that,
there's pressure, if there's huge pressure on someone, that can take the enjoyment out of it, even if they loved it before. So, yeah, I think the
yeah,
pressures of
talking about
everyday
like,
life. Yeah.
uh-huh. Well, that's even if you have a life.
Mm,
Like, there are some jobs where I suppose people's bosses or the company put a lot of emphasis on the end result.
mm.
That comes before anything. If you're not willing to go the extra mile, if you're not willing to do the work for the benefit of the company, then we will get rid of you. We don't give a shit about how it affects your mental health. Don't give a shit about how it affects your physical health. We just don't care. We care about the
End result.
the well-being of the company. Yeah, like that's
Mm.
all we really care about. And then
Profiteering.
it makes, yeah, but then it makes you question, well, I remember Richard Branson said a very, very powerful quote in the past. He said that I ensure that my employees are taken care of first, because without them, I
There's no
cannot, I cannot
company.
grow. I cannot do
Yeah.
anything. Um, and as a result, the man created one of the biggest companies in the world, Virgin. It's massive, it's huge. And most likely because he took care of his employees who obviously took care of him. I suppose
Mm.
there's a balance. But if you work for a company that make you feel like you're not very valued or not very cared for, that's when it starts to get a little bit trippy, a little bit unstable, because why should your employee care if you don't care about your employee?
Well,
You
they
know, and
say
that's
you do more when appreciated. So it kind of works in the corporate company's favor to appreciate who's working for them, because effectively they're the ones getting the job done,
Mhm.
which is enabling them to reap the profits.
Yeah, and a lot of companies do offer benefits for working with them, which again is another massive value to some people. Like, if the profit margins aren't enough to pay more in money, the company can offer benefits in other ways. And I suppose for some people, that screams a lot louder than money. So sometimes some people value the time. They're like, right, if you can give us 4 days a week, we'll give you 3 days a week off, as opposed to we'll pay you a lot more, but we need 6 days a week from you.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah. I mean, at
and
my place, we get staff discount. So that
it,
kind of
yeah,
helps.
benefits like that. Yeah, or like a company car or extra holiday, sick pay, something. And I like that. I think that's really, really powerful. Nini, we see you. Always here. Hey.
I do feel appreciated at my work, and it doesn't really feel like work, to be honest, and I really do enjoy it, which is good. But I think I would struggle if I worked for a really big corporate company and I kind of felt invisible, and like I could be replaced like that, because I kind of don't feel like that at my work. I mean, they could replace me. Everybody's replaceable, right? But
well, yeah, because you could die tomorrow.
Yeah,
And
but
unfortunately, even
I
it's a sad
know
loss, they
that
would need someone else to take your place.
my absence would be felt.
Yeah. I've worked in places where it's really nice to be acknowledged from all areas, like from the most, because we're all valuable to each other, even from the
Yeah,
cleaners. Like,
absolutely.
it's so important, because without them, it'd be a very dirty environment. Everyone's
Yeah,
got such a role to play, but to be acknowledged in that role is the main thing, because it is like the contribution. And in essence, without each other, the grand scheme, the bigger picture just wouldn't work. And that's nice. That's really
always
nice.
treat the CEO, the cleaner, the same as the CEO.
Yeah, you got to
because they're both for
treat
rubbish in my
people.
place.
But I think
Because
you
they're
should just
both
treat.
human.
Yeah, exactly, Liz. It takes one to know one. Like, treat people like people. Like,
Yeah,
don't take your job role too seriously, because beyond your job role, you are just a person, and you never
exactly.
know when life, like real life, away from your job, might bite you in the ass, because you're gonna. It doesn't matter how much money you make. Like, there's nothing escaping someone you love and their health. If they are affected by poor health, it's going to affect you regardless of how much money you have. Your money
Yeah,
can't bring them back. It can't save them. So if you go to work and you're feeling that, just remember, at that time you might just need someone to see you as a person rather than your job role. And that's why it's important. And I love that you've just said that, Liz. Like, it really is important in that sense. So there's a lot of pros to it and there's a lot of cons to it, but it's like a catch 22. And that's the struggle that I think most people feel and face. It's like, I have to do this thing, um, because without it, I have no livelihood. But at what point is enough enough? When does the threshold get met when you don't feel like people care enough about you? That's one of the hardest things, because it might not be through any fault of their own. And this is one of the hardest things, as a younger generation going into a company that's been established for a long time, built on the backs of a lot of people. One of the biggest sayings that kills creativity is, this is how it's always been done. This is how it's always been done doesn't allow room for innovation. It doesn't
or
allow
imagination.
for new imagination. It doesn't allow for fresh eyes to see things, like, critically, and be like, have you ever tried doing this or this? And I'm only saying that because the perception of you is a little bit prehistoric. And when new generations come through, their perception of it might not really appeal to them. And just saying, if you want your company to survive the long run, I suppose the next generations are the ones who's going to be paying for it. I had this conversation once with a colleague about TikTok, and obviously I've been on it for a couple of years, got a decent following, which I'm very grateful for. And they say, how do you do it? And I said, I just be myself. Just be myself.
Best way to
People
be.
accept me as myself. But when you're sometimes in an environment that don't really allow it, you will never get the full amount of someone. You'll always get the percentage that you will allow. And then you feel restricted. And if you're restricted, you'll never reach full potential. And it's heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking.
You're right.
How, right. So for 2 years, we went into a lockdown where a lot of people found themselves. They rediscovered who they are, what their life meant to them. And a lot of things changed. And I think I speak for most people when I say the first lockdown, especially for us in the Western world, was bliss. Harmony was felt. Everyone was in the same storm. Might not have been in the same boat, but was in the same storm. But it wasn't like a bad storm. It was like a perfect storm. It was like, wow. And people rediscovered that. Then obviously as time has gone on, and now we're finding ourselves out of that, it's almost like people were confused about having to go back.
Yeah,
They almost forgot,
being off.
how do we do this again? And that's when the old mindsets kicked in, like, okay, so this is how we used to do it, let's just get back to how we used to do it. But it's not we don't live the same now. It shouldn't be how we used to do it. Like, there's a famous saying, and I can't remember who said it, but it went along the lines of something about the educated. Fuck, I gotta try and remember it, but it was something along the lines how like the world that you used to know. Oh Christ, I've got to remember this. Where's my okay, you guys talk away. I'm gonna try and remember. This is like my famous quote book, and I've got to find this because I have to say this, so stay tuned because I will
education
remember.
is the passport to the future?
It's something like that. It's something like that.
Tomorrow belongs to those who prepare for today.
Keep going.
I love it, Michael. You're just reeling them off from Google.
That was Malcolm X.
God. Okay, here we go. Okay. The learners shall inherit the earth, while the learned will be beautifully equipped for a world that no longer exists.
It's like that tree quote, isn't it? Where the person that plants the tree won't necessarily sit under it and be shaded by it.
Yeah.
I've never heard that tree quote before, but hey, that's a new
one.
one.
I'm not saying it properly.
You kind of butchered it, but yeah.
Yeah, I did. Sorry, everybody that loves that quote. Michael, can you not find it and read it out properly, please? Come on, you're my wingman. Help me out.
No, but the quote that I just quoted, obviously, it does make sense. If you are beautifully equipped for a world that no longer exists, what use is that? So the idea is you need to keep up with the time. That's in essence what it meant. I suppose we could sit here all day till the cows come home and about the system, but I'm so glad that at the start of the episode we highlighted just how important it is to maintain it, because we are too far gone now. There is no going back. In order for all of us to live the lifestyles that we do currently, which from my perspective isn't too bad, we actually live in the safest time ever to be alive. We live in the most cleanest time ever to be alive, and we have access to our fundamental needs as people. Now granted, there's a lot of problems in the world where some people have real bad mindset towards it and they take it out on others, but we are trying to heal those people, rather than what, like, I don't particularly like mainstream media simply because they highlight a lot of bad news, and they'll make that one bit of bad news outweigh a lot of the good stuff, because you could go out there and report on all the good stuff because there's a lot of good stuff, like good news. But because in our nature as human beings we are more attracted to things that spark our fear. I hate that because we can't help that. Like biologically, we're hacked by three things: food, sex, and violence. It is impossible for us to turn a blind eye to that stuff. And I've mentioned it in previous episodes. Very, very popular series, like on like Netflix or wherever you watch your series, they normally play those three things in a cycle. Whether it be like Game of Thrones, whether it be like Power, even Peaky Blinders, Spartacus. You will see people eating food, having sex, or something violent going on. It's those three things because the human is biologically hacked. We can't turn it off. We are attracted to it. So mainstream media kind of feed off that. Just always remember that. So
you got it in your TikTok now. Someone pull it.
What's that? Blessed are the people who
tree
plant
quote.
trees, knowing that they shall never sit beneath their shade. Girl in the corner. Big up yourself. Love that.
Thanks for helping me out there, girl in the corner.
Yes. And
I do
guess
feel like I know what you're saying about the system and everything, but do you not think like after so many years, there's always sort of like a change in the system? Do you not think that we've got to a point where it's so corporate and it's so crushing of innovation and critical thinking? Do you not think that we need to change?
Well, it's never going to change because the people that run the corporates have too much money, so they are too powerful to change it.
I don't think that it needs to change simply because it's set up in a way that works, highlighting how many people can get jobs. If Jeff Bezos was to completely change the way that he's created Amazon, a lot of people would be unemployed. Now, don't get me wrong, how the people are treated, I don't necessarily agree with, but he has created something that contributes to the well-being globally. And excuse me, it's important that we maintain it, because to go to a world without it, I think many businesses would fail. They wouldn't survive because they piggyback off the back of his company.
Yeah. So many people, millions of people sell on his site. So
yeah,
you change that.
Yeah.
All of those companies.
Yeah. Again, back to livelihood. A lot of people rely on the system for the livelihood. And there are also those who are so caught up in it, they don't even realize that it's a problem because it might not be a problem. What I suppose is interesting is human nature. Working in an environment that you must abide by certain rules, and these rules aren't written, it's just the nature of the beast. You cannot turn up and tell the world your problems. You just can't. It doesn't create a healthy environment to work on. You're high strung enough, fearful of losing your job. There is a hierarchy system, I suppose, people with authority that have the power to end your career. And that is in itself very, very scary, especially the longer you're there, because the longer you're there, you may have worked your way up to a point where you feel like, I've worked way too hard to pull out now. I didn't come this far to give up. And also, let's say that you work your way to a point where you are so experienced within it that because obviously your wage matches your value, for you to walk away, there goes your livelihood. To start somewhere else from the bottom again, it just doesn't make sense. So you settle, you're prepared to stay for the duration of the rest of time because you're too heavily invested.
Yeah, don't help. I've just invested in shares.
That's like a struggle.
I feel like the corporate world lacks empathy though, and I feel like it kind of creates that kind of robotic mindset, like where you said you can't tell the world your problems. Totally get that. But then I kind of think that makes people kind of become robot-like, you know, they're just kind of getting up, going to work, in the system, repeat.
And that's one of the struggles, because it is repetitive. There some systems are built that way. There's nothing else to do. And I guess you also have to be very thick-skinned, in a sense that you can't take things personally, because in that sense, if you are ever representing a company, you must do what's in the best interests of the company. So for those that don't know, our very first episode here on the Elite Thinking Club, which hasn't been aired, was because one of the guests on the show is very high up in one of the world's biggest banks, and some of the stuff we were talking about was very sensitive and personal, and therefore she requested it not be aired. And I actually took that as an opportunity to make sure that the first episode isn't aired until our 10th year anniversary. And that's when it will be aired, because hopefully she won't be employed by them anymore. I'll have to double check. But it was 10 years ago anyway. The issue was the things we were talking about to her would have caused a little bit of upset in her workplace, because they would have seen it as, you can't talk about that stuff, you represent us, even in your personal life, which is then the struggle. Because do you even have a personal life? If you don't have the freedom to speak at work, that's one thing. But if you can't go home and talk amongst friends about certain things, for fear of being I don't know, doing wrong by the company, ain't that another thing?
Yeah, but there's a few different levels of it though. Like there's one thing talking with your friends about it, and then there's another one talking on camera about it and recorded.
Yeah, on an awesome Elite Thinking Club podcast.
Yeah, so I could tell you all the shit that happens at my job, but if I do it on here, it's very frowned upon. Like even if I take a picture.
Yeah. Everyone always says, like, you know, don't do your laundry in public or something like that when it comes to like relationships or home life or whatever. But I suppose it is the same for your job. It is important because you do represent your company, and you do want to represent them in the positive light. I suppose though, when you know within yourself that you are genuine and true and positive, but you still can't be your full self, it hurts, because you've got so much more to give, you know. You're restricted almost, and it's like, I think Liz was like, you know, there's a lack of empathy in it. Yeah, I guess.
Yeah, there is.
But at the same time, if we empathized with everyone, would things ever get done? Like, it is very important that employees do their job regardless of how they feel, because if they don't, it could cause a catastrophic knock-on effect to the rest of the system.
When I said, like, I don't think that the corporate world is empathetic, or is very I mean, like, towards the sort of, you know, I feel like they're disregarded. The corporate world don't even bother. Like, that doesn't enter their minds. It's more about profiteering. But I would feel frustrated if I worked, going back to what you just said about not being able to say something because of where you work. I would feel frustrated if I worked for a corporation and I was
Classic Liz. Just cuts off halfway.
Just about to make a point.
Yep. And she's like, yeah, see you later. Right. Now, obviously, there's a lot deeper going on. Some would say that there is a ruling elite who purposely have created the system to serve them.
Sorry.
So there is no escape. It's built this way so that you are restricted to what you can and can't say, because if it goes against the status quo, you will actually be assassinated. Or
well, yeah, like
publicly
we actually witnessed, like during the past 2 years, anybody that spoke out that didn't follow it, doctor, if they were a virologist, if they were a politician, if they anybody that a teacher, a nurse, anybody that was of any of these professions and other professions, carers, anybody follow the narrative that these corporations to that are completely cancelled.
Yes. So I don't like it.
I can't. I can't say anything because I work for this, and
yes,
and that's when I witnessed the whole
silence. I had I had a lot of people who wanted to speak their truth, but they didn't speak their truth in fear of being of losing their job, being misunderstood, and actually upsetting people. And I'm referencing the Black Lives Matter. And I will be honest, and at the time when I wanted to have conversations with people, or needed a little bit of backing from people, they weren't willing to stick their neck out for me as an individual and fight for me. However, if they were on the back foot and they needed my help to fight for their company, they would definitely start questioning, why aren't you backing us? Why aren't you waving our flag? Why aren't you fighting for us? And I'd say, because where were you when I needed you to fight for me? And it wasn't a case of butting heads and having arguments and falling out. It was just an observation that I stayed very silent about. And I just realized at the time, wow. And that was it. I just left it at that. You know, you got people as well who are fearful to speak their truth, because I know they would have loved to. I know they would have loved to publicly show support, but they were so fearful about who it might offend and who might misjudge and all that. And I'm like, but just speak your truth.
Yeah. That is the problem nowadays, is who you're going to offend, how big a group is it, and how loud are they?
You
should listen to some songs by Tom McDonald. Let me check his name.
Swiss Beats. I would speak out. I don't care. Some may call me selfish, but I can't lie to myself. That's truth seekers. Just put a little comment in there. I love that. Maybe you're in a position where you can do that. Where's Alicia Keys, bro? Some of these comments, great. They're brilliant. Love them. Love you guys.
Yeah, look for an artist called Tom McDonald.
And what's so beneficial about that? Why should I do that, Mike?
Because he talks the truth and he doesn't give a fuck who doesn't like it. All of his songs, like he's a rapper. All of his songs are fucking straight to the point.
Yeah, I mean, there was this one rapper once who didn't even make it to the age of 30 who spoke a lot about what he believed and the truth, and he was killed. Tupac Shakur. There are those who do step up and speak and give other people hope and give other people power just by being themselves, but they are assassinated. They are crucified almost. I remember Michael Jackson. Now I'm older and hear the lyrics a lot deeper, like I deep them a lot more, and I'm like, regardless of how this guy looked, because I don't want to be that guy that judges people on how they look. So I do my best not to. And I don't like how he's been, crucified and whatnot. But at the end of the day, what my man was trying to do was use his influence to actually highlight some of these issues in the world. And an unstoppable man like him, there's only one way to they realize the only way to eliminate this threat is to turn the mob against him, create the narrative that he is XYZ rather than what he was, which, was in essence.
He didn't help himself though, did he?
A prophet of our time. No, he had a lot of psychological issues from trauma childhood that did not help him at all. He didn't have a stable mind and, under a lot of drugs and, made some very, very big mistakes publicly, which that then obviously ties into what we're talking about. But yeah. Hey.
Like, if I wanted to build a theme park in my garden, that's all right. Just don't invite kids to it.
I don't want to go into it too much. I don't want this podcast to turn into Michael Jackson's story. Maybe we should do an episode on that. If you would like that as an episode, just hit the comments, say, yeah, 100%, just put MJ or something. Even put he in it, so we just know you're referencing MJ. Shamon. And that we'd know. That would be a great episode. But you're not wrong, Michael. Like, if you're going to create a theme park in your garden, but then at the same time, would you not say the same for Walt Disney?
Well, he was a little bit more public though, wasn't it?
So he created a theme park where you could just bring the whole family. Now, I don't want to get into, we've done episodes on conspiracy. So if you want to watch episodes on that, maybe we should do an episode on that. The next one would be just like conspiracy. We'll do one on MJ and then one on conspiracies. Because Walt Disney, there's a lot of conspiracy behind that. Like, was he part of the Illuminati?
A lot.
All them things.
He was. No, not Illuminati. He was
were they grooming children? Does Walt Disney play a massive part in how we shape the mindset of the youth, which then obviously transcends into their adulthood? Some would say
it plays a part, definitely, with the subliminal messaging within the cartoons and the films. There's so many. Absolutely.
Yeah.
When you break it down and look into it, yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I won't pretend that growing up as a kid, that Walt Disney didn't influence me. Like, my two favorite Disney films are Hercules and Tarzan. The hero in the story undergoes hardship, undergoes struggle, but then comes out on top, finds who he is and fights. And, they just really influenced me. My two favorite Disney films, not to mention with the power of music. Now, some would just say, yo, man, they just made great films, great stories, great films, animations, it's great. And I think, you know what, it is great. And I think they're great. But is there...
My favorite's Aladdin.
Yeah, exactly. But is there, like, was they actually breeding a mindset that I wouldn't be able to escape from? I don't know, man. I don't know. Like The Little Mermaid, for example. Like, I don't want to get into it. Like, so we're going way away from the title, but we're into it now. The Little Mermaid was about a girl who left her family and in essence changed and morphed herself just to get the man, to get the Prince Charming. And that breaks my heart because she couldn't accept who she was. She, in essence, if you was to base it on modern day, got surgery.
She was
faking it and lost her voice. Like, oh my God. So I saw this thing the other day. A guy highlighted to someone else. He asked them a question. Is £2 million a lot of money to you? I ask everyone now, is £2 million a lot of money to you? Be honest. Yeah. If I was to say to you, I'll give you £2 million today, how happy would you be?
Very.
Yeah, you'd be very happy. Be like, yeah, cool. And I'd be like, okay, cool. Now, what if I offered you £2 million for both your eyes?
No.
You wouldn't sell me your eyes for £2 million?
No.
But why? £2 million is life-changing. It's a lot of money. I'll give you
Yeah,
2
but it's
million.
only life changing with my eyes. It's pointless
Okay,
living
what about
in the
3?
life I've lived so far. I won't sell them for anything because
Okay, so this is
I
what he
won't
was
enjoy my
highlighting.
life without them.
He said that you have been born with a priceless gift. Don't focus so much on things like money when you hold, in essence, more value than any money. You have 2 amazing eyes that are priceless, and just always remember that. And it was
Can I
like,
refer it to my uncle instead? You can have
go
his
on.
eyes for 2 million.
It was just a magical moment, and I was like, wow. But the Little Mermaid sacrificed her voice and changed her body, willing to do it for the prince, and it's just crazy, man.
I think that's why Moana's a better film.
Yeah, modern Disney definitely highlight a much better perception, I suppose. Apart from
That's why they
Hunchback
get
of
too
Notre
woke.
Dame. Hunchback of Notre Dame still breaks my heart because that pretty much highlights you could be the hero, but if you're ugly as fuck, you won't get the girl. You know what I mean? He saved her life twice in that film. And do you know what I mean? It was just fuck's sake. Quasimodo. Anyway, back to what we were actually talking about, the struggle of corporate life. We will do an episode on Disney films. I feel like we got to do MJ and Disney films. But yeah, there is a struggle. I like how we found ways to cope. This was the next chapter of the episode, coping. How do people cope with the struggle of corporate life? If it's a struggle at all, some people might not find it a struggle. They are quite comfortable and happy with it. They need it. They've built their whole life around it, which is great. You know, you found that's probably your coping mechanism. Escape a shit life by living that life. Whereas some may not be on that same mindset. They may feel like they have to deal with things coping. That's why some people may live for the weekend. If you work a 9 to 5, Monday to Friday, your weekend was your escape. And that's why you let loose. That's why you had a good time. That's why you would let your hair down. Actually live a little. Trade 5 days for 2 a week. What are your thoughts? I would love to know what you guys think.
See, I just try and leave. As soon as I leave that door, my job's in there.
Yeah.
So I try not to think about outside work.
That's awesome. That's interesting. That's really interesting. You're absolutely right as well. Like when you are outside those doors, you are yourself. Unless you're pretty high up in a corporate bank and you can't say things that you just can't say things. You know, there were guys that ended up in like the newspapers, a journalist or whoever they call them, found them at a bar and they were talking about their Christmas bonuses, and they were talking about how upset they were that they worked so hard in the year that they weren't going to receive their like 100,000 Christmas bonus. They felt really sad and upset about that. They were like, I grafted my ass off this whole year and I'm missing out on my 100,000 bonus. To mention, these guys make a lot of money per year. They probably were turning over. That's probably like a percentage of their annual wage. But it's all relative. However, this journalist or whoever, this newspaper person, overheard their conversation, recorded it, and made a story about it and tried to make them look like these rich wanker bankers moaning about 100,000 Christmas bonus when there's people out there that can't even afford kids' meals. And you got this football player going on about free school meals, and you got these bankers complaining about 100,000 bonus that they aren't receiving. But I know that you could easily see where they were trying to go with it, but it's all relative.
Yeah.
You know, it is relative.
Yeah, because there's that old saying that the more you earn, the more you spend. So they're earning
Yeah,
that money and they're
yeah,
probably spending that money. So to them, that's like 100 quid.
yeah. And where they spend that money, no doubt, like I said before earlier in the episode, it does exchange hands. Now, I suppose the big issue is when greed stops the flow. Yes, you could earn 1 billion, but we actually need you to pump it back into the system for you to earn your next billion and your next billion. Because money is like manure. If it's stacked in one place, it's horrible and stinks. But when it's spread, it actually does a lot of good. It's quite a bad metaphor. I could have thought of
No, it
something
makes
else.
sense.
Yeah, good.
Yeah.
It's like a very, very, very rich person. If they were to hoard the money, it would only put extra strain on the masses. What we need it to do is exchange hands. Like that way, it does flow, and that way, I could pay you to pay someone else to pay someone else in exchange for goods and services, and therefore creating a real life of abundance for all. And you're right. That 100,000 bonus for that banker, for all we know, he could have donated half of that to charities. And everybody knows charities are where our governments fail, in essence. But I'm not playing blame games on governments. I'm just highlighting that all charities highlight issues that we could solve if we had funding, or I don't want to get too deep into it, but it is what it is. Fast for all we know, he could have been like really upset, like, fuck's sake, I got 100,000 that I was expecting as a bonus that I didn't get. Now I can't contribute to this charity or that charity.
Yeah.
For all we know, he could have contributed that 100,000 to school meals.
Yeah.
But again, someone took it out of context or made a story about it, and and therefore he may now be so afraid to speak his truth ever again, even at a bar with his friends. It's bad.
Yeah. Also, even if it was just a spunk, like even if that money was literally for his beer tokens,
Yeah.
if he's done the job and they told him they should have it, then yeah, I'd be pissed off as well.
Yeah,
if
but
I'd work
even
my
if
ass off to get it.
Exactly. And even if it was just for beer tokens, it's an exchange of flow. If he wants to spend £100,000 on beer, the beer company get paid. And then the beer company can pay the barley company, can pay the electricity bill. They can pay. So the exchange would still be there. And yes, that in essence, Michael, you've just nailed. You've just highlighted how important it is. So yeah, Nini. Oh, Laura. Thank you, Laura. Say goodbye. Liz, where you been?
Well, I think I've been on here. I've been coming back and forth, back and forth. I've been catching bits. Sorry, I was trying to contribute and then I got cut off. So
Oh, welcome back, Liz. Welcome back.
thanks.
We were just saying.
I have been listening, and I do agree with a lot of what you're saying, and I'm not sure if what I was saying before got heard or not, but yeah.
What'd she say? What did she say?
I don't know. I didn't even know she was here.
Oh, thanks.
Nah, Liz, come on. We're joking.
I know you always do this to me, guys.
We love you. We love you. We were just highlighting a lot of things. Next episode is going to be about MJ, and probably do a 50-50 episode. Michael Jackson, and also about Disney films and the influence they have on the younger minds and how it transcends into adulthood. Really, really good. Well, that's us at the 58-minute mark, believe it or not. And I know that you guys have enjoyed it, appreciate it. If you haven't done so already, hit the like, hit the subscribe. If you've made it this far, I mean, come on, you should definitely do that. Hit the notification bell as well, so you know next time that we are live, so you never miss an episode once it's uploaded. And if you want to, you should check out the previous episodes, because we have covered a lot here at the Elite Thinking Club. We are at like 92 videos now, which are all over an hour long on our YouTube. And you get to see all three of us. So you can put our faces to our voices, and also just contribute, be part of it. You can join our Discord. You can join us on Twitch. You can just simply send us a DM, send us a message. We get them and we love them. So thank you. Liz, Michael, is there anything else you want to add to tonight's episode?
No, pretty good. Yeah, I think you've just summed it up with thank you to everyone, and make sure you follow us.
Love that. Nothing more you want to say about the struggle of corporate life?
Let's all go
I'm a
off
little bit
grid,
hands
make
tied.
our own communities. Let's get out of the system, guys. Come on. No, nothing else to say, really.
Yeah, I'm stuck in corporate, so I can't really say much about it.
I was gonna say, I guess I'm of a mindset that's like yin and yang. I do
Very
love
much
it for
so.
all the luxuries it brings, and I do also feel the struggle of it sometimes when I feel like it's too much. But I do understand on the grand scheme of things, it's really important, because if it was all to fall down, we would find ourselves in a very difficult place, and that we don't want. So I am very grateful for it, and that's just my stance. But hey,
I hear you.
it is what it is. Everyone everywhere, thank you so much for tuning into our episode. Like I mentioned, if you haven't done so already, hit the like, hit the subscribe button. You can check out some of our previous episodes. All links to all the episodes we mentioned in this episode are in the description. And just thank you so much for being here. So from me, Liz, and Michael,
Bye.
everyone everywhere, peace and love.